Greetings to everyone out there in the NoDQ galaxy. Welcome to the NoDQ live recap of AEW's Fyter Fest. This was the second official AEW show from Daytona Beach, Florida. Good crowd tonight, although not a sellout. I believe somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 fans. You could see some empty seats in the upper sections of the arena, but considering the fact that this is officially AEW's second show, not a bad turnout for a city that is not a major destination like Las Vegas or Chicago or New York and so on. We had the first hour of the show, which was the buy-in show or the kickoff pre-show, whatever you would like to refer to it as. So let's go ahead and get started with this review of the show. By the way, quick shout out to everybody in the chat room for watching live. Keep in mind the NoDQ Super Chat Championship is on the line, but I will try to not have it interrupt the video too many times. I will do my best here and stay serious and review the show. So kicking off Fyter Fest, we had a triple threat tag team match. The Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta against SoCal Uncensored, Scorpio Sky, or Harold, for those of you that remember him during the Daniel Bryan, Kane, Dr. Shelby segments, along with Frankie Kazarian, versus the Private Party, Asaya Cassidy and Mark Quinn. This was quite the lengthy kickoff match. I thought it was really good, and I thought Mark Quinn really shined in this match. He was doing a lot of cool things in this match. Everybody looked good in this match, but in the end, the Best Friends picked up the victory with the Strong Zero, and because of this victory, they will be getting a bye in the upcoming tournament to crown the first ever AEW Tag Team Champions. After the match, we had the Dark Order, which is this group of guys, something like half a dozen guys. They did a promo on the big screen, and then the lights went out. The lights came back on, and the Dark Order was surrounding the Best Friends who were still in the ring. The lights went back out again, and the Dark Order was nowhere to be found. So this was the first match. Good stuff to kick off the Fyter Fest. After that, we had a women's match. Ali versus Leva Bates, a.k.a. The Librarian. And we have a $5 Super Chat. Carlos Gomez with $5. The first NoDQ Super Chat champion of the evening says, just waiting until AEW becomes a weekly show. Well, thank you for that, Carlos. And like all of us, we are definitely anticipating this new war between WWE and AEW. A new era in wrestling is upon us. Congratulations on being the Super Chat champion. So, before we got to this women's match, we had a backstage skit with the Young Bucks making fun of the Fyter Fest. And real quick here, Psycho Jet Black with the $2 Super Chat. Who's more over, you or EC3? Probably me at this point, which is really sad because it should be EC3 by a mile. Young Bucks did a parody of the Fyter Fest, talking about all these things that they were expecting but were not getting, much like the real-life Fyter Fest. So for those of you that have no idea what the references were about, the Fyter Fest was this music festival from a couple of years ago that had Ja Rule, the rapper, attached to it, and all these big names like Blink-182. This was supposed to be this big festival in the middle of this I think Caribbean island, some fancy island. I'm not even sure where it was, but the gist of the story is that the event was a complete disaster, and basically the guys in charge of it were committing fraud. The whole thing was just a complete financial mess. So the whole concept of this with AEW, the Fyter Fest, was supposed to be a parody of that. Kenny Omega told the Bucks, because they lost their ring gear as a result of this disaster, Kenny Omega had brand new gear for them, which would be shown during the actual match. Now, unfortunately, because the gear went over the budget, AEW had to cut had to cut costs in the storyline by getting rid of a few of the models that were there at the ringside area. So for the Fyter Fest, let me try that again, easy for me to say, the Fyter Fest stage, they had these women in bikinis, you know, also doing a parody of the Fyre Fest with all the hot women. Part of the advertising for Fyter Fest, or Fyre Fest, I should say, was all these women in bikinis. You would be in paradise with all these beautiful women, yada yada yada. So you had all these women in bikinis on the stage, but then because of the budget cuts of having to get new gear, the women were replaced with mannequins. Alfred with a $5.69 super chat donation. Congratulations to Alfred for being the new NoDQ super chat champion. He says, what are your thoughts on Darby Allin? I will get to him in just a second here, I promise. Thank you so much for that super chat. And people are already, Oofman Rules is teasing me. He's saying stay on topic, which I'm trying here, Oofman. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, take away 2 matches and this was an above average show. Well, I'm curious to know which matches you thought were not deserving of being on this card. Let me know, Tony H. So anyways, we had the librarians come out. Peter Avalon is one of them, and then Leva Bates is the other one. They kept doing the shh to each other, and this was not really funny in my opinion. I felt that this skit fell quite flat, to be perfectly honest with you guys. We had the match with Ali, who was part of Impact Wrestling for a couple of years. Interference from Peter on the outside. But in the end, Ali scored the victory with a super kick. Not much to say about it. It was just basically a random kickoff match. I mean, it was just nothing to it. And the comedy, I felt, actually fell pretty flat. So here's a match that I feel was probably very polarizing. We had this hardcore match here between Michael Nakazawa, as Justin Roberts says, versus Alex Jabali. I guess that's his name. I wonder if Alex Jabanks would be a better name. I don't know, but he needs a different name if he's going to keep wrestling. I'm not even sure where this guy came from. Apparently, he's part of the CEO video game company or something. I don't know what it was. I'm not in with what all that stuff is all about. So, Cindy says that's his real name. Well, he needs a new name, damn it, if he's going to keep doing stuff. So anyways, and Nakazawa, I mean, not to sound, you know, prejudiced or anything, but it just sounds like Nakamura. But I do like how Justin Roberts does the Nakazawa thing. That's amusing. So we had another Fyre Fest spoof before the match. Blink 182 was not going to make it. They had a drum set and guitars set up on the stage, but no Blink 182, so too bad. We had this hardcore match, which was basically a comedy match. Now, I wrote on Twitter talking about how I actually enjoyed this match. I was entertained by it, but a lot of people did not like this match. Dave Meltzer did not like this match, a lot of people. And Dave Meltzer's, you know, he's the AEW guy, and he didn't like this match. I thought it was entertaining. Here's the thing, guys, to quote Jeff Meacham. This was on the kickoff. It's a comedy match. You want to have a show with variety on it. You can have a comedy match. There's no crime to have a comedy match, especially when it's on the kickoff. I found it to be very entertaining personally. I know a lot of AEW fans are like, this is too much like WWE. It's sports entertainment. We got to be serious with wrestling 24/7. I thought that this was fine. You know, they did a lot of comedy spots. Nakazawa doing the baby oil shtick that he did at the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Jabali was using a video game console, choking him with the cord from the video game controller. We had a kiddie pool. straight out of WCW Nitro. Jabali was trying to drown him in the water, and then he body slammed him into the pool. This was great stuff. I thought that this was hilarious. I love the water, the guys throwing each other into the water, you know, just like WCW. I had no problem with this whatsoever. Now, people are saying, will you complain about WWE doing all this stuff? No, I don't. Go back and watch the old videos, especially when it's like something that's not meant to be important. You know, if they were doing this in the WWE title match or the AEW World title match, then I might say, you know, this really doesn't fit. But this was the kickoff. This was the pre-show. So I had no problem with it. You know, going back a couple of years ago, the WLC match with Hornswoggle versus El Torito. You know, that was the kickoff. It was entertaining. It was fine for what it was. It's to warm up the fans. I don't see a problem with it. And Nakazawa ended up using a thong to the face to counter Jabali's pinfall, and then that's how Nakamura won the match. Or see, I just said Nakamura, so there you go. Nakazawa, that's how he won the match, with a thong. A lot of people were comparing it to like Pat Patterson and Jerry Briscoe evening gown match. This was better than that, in my opinion. That match was just dumb, but again, that was a throwaway match. Then again, that was a throwaway match on a pay-per-view you're spending $50 for. Keep in mind, folks, this show was free. You could have watched it on Bleacher Report, 100% free. So, you know, to me, complaining about it is really nitpicking. Now, some might argue, well, this is kind of what they should not be doing to draw in new fans. Again, it's the kickoff. It's a variety show, and I'm totally fine with one comedy match on the show. So I've said enough about that. Now we move on to the main card. Christopher Daniels of SoCal Uncensored against John Shima. Actually, his name is just Shima, but I like to call him John Shima. Pretty basic match. I mean, quite frankly, I didn't think there was all that much to this. It was just an average match. Nothing special about it. Carlos with a $10 super chat. Thank you for that, Carlos. He says, here goes an interesting question. If WWE were to go out of business, why is he going off topic here? You're going to get me in trouble, Carlos. If WWE were to go out of business for real, leaving all the talent, free agents, which star would they pick up, full-time or not? John Cena, huge star power. I will go ahead and answer this after I finish the review and talk about Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman, which I haven't done yet, so stay tuned for that. After I finish the Fyter Fest review, I will talk about the whole situation with Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff. So stay tuned for that. And Carlos, I'll get to your question later. By the way, Carlos is the new reigning and defending NoDQ Super Chat champion. So anyways, nothing much to Shima versus Daniels. Shima picked up the victory with the double knees off the top rope. Daniels showed the sportsmanship after the match, raised his hand. And, you know, this makes sense. This is fine because Shima is facing Kenny Omega at Fight for the Fallen. So you want to build him up for Omega, even though I think it's pretty obvious Omega's going to win that match. Still, you want to build up Shima for Omega and make him look like a credible opponent. So no problem with the finish here. No problem with Daniels taking the fall. You know, Daniels is 46 years old. He's at the stage of his career where he's going to be putting over other talent. Next up, we had a three-way women's match, which was quite a good match. I'm not going to be able to pronounce these names. Yuka Sakazaki, I can't even do it. I'm sure I butchered that really badly. Versus Raiho versus Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose, they're booking her like a monster, having her do all the big spots on her opponents. They would try to work together to take her out, but she would continue to dominate. I thought this was pretty good stuff here. Although I was a little bit baffled that Nyla Rose actually lost this match. You know, they were pushing her so strongly here as this monster, and then she loses. I mean, this is like Nia Jax. You know, you build her up only to have her lose. I mean, granted, it was pretty much a fluke finish. It was like I'm not even sure what it was. I think it was some kind of roll-up. It was just a surprise victory out of nowhere. Riho won the match. It wasn't like she dominated or anything. It was like a surprise pinfall, something like that. So it wasn't quite as bad as like Sasha Banks tapping out Nia Jax at Survivor Series. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't quite as big of a deal. Rose attacked her after the match, and then the other one came in, fought her off, and then Riho shoved her and left. So more dissension between those two. So yeah, this was fine, but I'm a little perplexed why Rose lost this. I would think that you would go all the way with her. You're going to book her as a monster, have her win the match, don't have her lose. I don't know. I'm not sure if this was the right decision, but it is what it is. So now we move on here to the four-way match, which was Adam Page, who is going to be facing Chris Jericho at All Out to crown the first AEW World Champion, versus Jimmy Havoc versus Jungle Boy versus MJF. So this was pretty obvious with Adam Page being the number one contender. Makes sense for him to win, and I wasn't really expecting anything different here. MJF cut a promo before the match. He called the fans nerds and said that they have moms that swallow. He talked about how, and this is a direct quote from him, he said, "I love video games. I did love video games, but then I lost my virginity." And then there was a fan, they cut to a fan at the front row, and that was great. Like the reaction of the fan was just hilarious. MJF is just amazing with the promos, getting some great heat, doing some tremendous stuff right now. Jungle Boy had a cool entrance with Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy looked really impressive in this match, doing a lot of cool stuff. I mean, this guy definitely has some potential. Like, he could be, if WWE could get this guy, like, he would be a great face of the Cruiserweight division. He's not that big, but he does some really amazing stuff in the ring, and I think he would be, if AEW was going to do some kind of Cruiserweight division, he'd be a good choice to carry the division. MJF, of course, cheated and was doing various things to try and win the match. We even had a little bit of a confrontation between Paige and MJF. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, MJF will be a top heel in all of wrestling soon. And I agree with Yu-Gi-Oh! Buddha. That corner cannonball was nuts. I agree on that. So the obvious finish here, Page won. He pinned Havoc with the Deadeye to pick up the victory. Totally makes sense. He's the number one contender, so no brainer here that he wins. Still, this was an entertaining match, despite the fact that I think the outcome was pretty obvious. So then we had Cody, not Cody Rhodes, just Cody, versus Darby Allin, who I was asked about earlier. This match was quite insane. So people are starting to compare Darby to Jeff Hardy, and you could definitely see it in this match. I mean, he was basically a one-man stunt show. He was taking all these crazy bumps. Cody was tossing him around, tossing him into the ring post, and he would fly to the outside. This guy was taking some crazy Jeff Hardy-like bumps for sure in this match. He came out with a body bag, so I was a little bit confused. So I'm not really familiar with their storyline. I guess Darby was trying to become 1-1 against Cody, and that's why it said 1-1 on the body bag. But I was confused because Cody went from being a face at the end. So he wrestled Dustin as a heel, and then he was a face after the match. And then back to this match, he was a heel again. So I guess it's that mentality that you just pick who you're going to cheer for. In this particular match, Cody was a heel. He was getting the heat for most of the match. Darby was taking all the crazy bumps. So yeah, again, I guess Cody's a tweener. I don't know, but it's a little confusing to me. My complaint, and I know AEW is trying to be different, I wish the characters were more clearly defined. This guy's a good guy, this guy's a bad guy, but that's just the old school viewpoint that I have. This mentality where you just cheer for who you want. There's shades of gray. I don't know if it really works in wrestling. But we'll see. Maybe it'll work in due time. And, you know, if it's different from WWE and they can make it work, then more power to them. There was one really crazy moment in this match, which really had me cringing. Actually, there were a couple, quite frankly, after the match. But the one in this match that I was like, wow, this is maybe a little bit too much. You had Darby going for what is called the coffin drop, where he basically goes like this and then falls back onto his opponent. Cody was on the ring apron. Darby was doing the coffin drop, and he fell back. Cody moved, and he just smashed himself onto that ring apron, as the announcers always put it, the hardest part of the ring. And that looked really bad. Like, I don't know how you can take a safe bump doing that. Like, that guy had to be hurting from that. It looked really bad, and might not be the best thing to do if you want a lengthy career in wrestling. Just saying. It did not look pretty. So in this match, we had a 20-minute time limit. It got down to the last minute, and at this point, I'm like, they're gonna do the draw, you know, because this is old school NWA stuff, and Cody is, of course, the son of Dusty Rhodes, so you got to have your time limit draws to be old school, and that's what Cody's been doing, you know, doing these old school style matches, except for the whole thing of being a clearly defined babyface or heel. That's all new school. So Cody started using the belt, you know, to try to win the match with less than a minute left. Cody hit the crossroads, and, you know, typical time limit draw scenario where he goes for the pin, the referee counts 1, 2, ding, 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 match is over before the referee can hit 3. Timing was a little off, as it usually is, which is why I'm usually not a fan of these time limit draws, because they try to be real cute with it, you know, but the timing, you gotta be like perfect with your timing here, and it was just off. The referee basically stopped before hitting 3, waiting for the bell to ring, so didn't quite work out the way they wanted it to. I did like the follow-up to this, though. So, you know, they were saying, you know, we're going to do overtime. The crowd was chanting overtime, and they were talking with the referee. So, you know, they had a nice out this time, instead of just having, like, Cody walk off or somebody walk off and there's no overtime or anything like that. You had Shawn Spears, formerly known as Ty Dillinger, show up for a surprise attack. So Cody Rhodes is now back to being a babyface. Shawn Spears hit Cody Rhodes in the head, direct chair shot, unprotected chair shot to the head. Now, granted, it didn't look like the most high intense chair shot. It was fairly light. He didn't like hit him as hard as he could. He held back quite a bit with the chair shot, but still, chair shot to the head in this era where WWE and even AEW, they talk about looking out for wrestlers' health. You know, AEW's talking about doing health insurance and all that, and they're doing chair shots to the head. So I'm not sure if this is the best example you want to send to the mainstream media. Hey, we're really looking out for the well-being of our talents. But then they could also argue, AEW could argue, well, it was a light chair shot. It's Cody. He's one of the guys in charge of the company. And they wanted to do it to get noticed. Just do it one time. So I could see both sides of the argument. I mean, no doubt this was a controversial decision. I saw comments on Twitter. People were outraged. People were like, this is amazing. So I've seen wide opinions about this. It's getting people talking, so, you know, it accomplishes that goal. And Cody was bleeding from the back of the head, and a lot of people were noticing that it wasn't the right side where he got hit. He was bleeding from the opposite side. So, I mean, that was probably planned blood. You had a bunch of wrestlers come out and to sell the idea that this was not part of the script. You had MJF, who was earlier in the show this despised heel, coming to the aid of Cody Rhodes, checking on him. Although I guess Cody Rhodes is a heel, so heel checking on heel. I think SoCal Uncensored, they were out there too, and they're heels, I believe, but I'm not really sure. I just think MJF was out there. I mean, the announcers made a big deal out of it. Like, MJF is a bastard, but, you know, at the end of the day, he still cares about the well-being of his fellow talent. So, yeah, that was done to try and sell the idea that this was legitimate, that MJF was out there. You also had Dean Malenko out there making his first AEW appearance as a producer for the company. And the announcers brought up, like, you know, Cody might not make it to Fight for the Fallen now. That match might be changed. That might be called off. So really good angle overall. You know, obviously a controversial moment with the steel chair to the head, but good angle here. I did like it. And the match was entertaining to watch. Definitely some scary moments, though. And, yeah, Darby, the guy, could take some crazy bumps, but at what cost? You know, you can argue, well, they're establishing AEW. They're trying to get this off the ground, so you're going all out, you know, pun intended, I guess. But, yeah, I hope he doesn't do it on a regular basis, because then he could just be asking for a very short career, if you know what I mean. So speaking of guys that could be pushing their luck, we had the Elite, Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid. Again, every Young Bucks match that you've seen up to this point, you know, just one crazy spot after another. These guys just doing all sorts of crazy acrobatics. Pretty much exactly what you would expect. And, you know, if it's your thing, then it's great. And I was entertained by it. Again, it's a variety show. Sometimes you get matches with a lot of chain wrestling. Sometimes you get hardcore wrestling. In this case, you get a lot of the acrobatics, a lot of the gymnastics, flips, all that crazy stuff. No selling. I mean, there was practically no selling whatsoever in this match. Just bam, 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 move, 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 move. You know, all that stuff. And by the way, Carlos with a $5 super chat is your new NoDQ super chat champion. He might have already been. He might have beaten himself to win the title. I already forgot. He says, have unprotected chair shots be a big moment. They should be rare. And, you know, that could be the attitude here. They're like, you know what, we're just going to do this one time, not get hit too hard, and that's that. That very well could have been the mentality here. We'll see if they keep doing it. And Joshua Black with a $1 super chat says nothing. Just left a $1 super chat. So thank you for that. I will talk about the intro. So as I mentioned earlier, Kenny Omega said he had gear for the Young Bucks. They came out dressed like Ryu. I never was sure how to pronounce his name. The guy from Street Fighter, who the karate guy who dresses in white. And then Ken, who dresses in red. So the two Street Fighter characters that came out dressed like those guys. Oh, I need a sip of water here. Hold on a second. And then we had a moment that I thought was kind of amusing, but I feel like unless you're a diehard wrestling fan, you probably did not get this reference. A fan ran up to them and started doing Batista's his little entrance taunt, you know, with the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. So this was actually a parody of something from WWE where Batista was backstage getting ready for his match, and a so-called fan, ran up by him and started doing the do-do-do-do-do-do, you know, the whole Batista thing. So this was a parody of that. So if you remember that, which happened like a decade ago, then you probably understood the reference here. If not, then you were wondering what the hell is going on here. Did some fan just run in and start acting like an idiot? Which I'm sure a lot of people that did not get the reference probably thought. So yeah, this was a reference to that. Then we had the lights come out, and Omega was apparently laying out that guy during the time that the lights were out. The guy was just laid out flat on the ground. Again, these guys had a crazy match, you know, just one big move after another. Total nonstop action. I mean, this is what TNA was pretty much trying to be for years, you know, total nonstop action. Move, move, move. Very little selling. Crowd loved it, though, of course. Again, this is what you come to expect. You buy a ticket to see the Young Bucks, you're going to want to see all this crazy stuff. So that's what these guys did. Crowd chanted, "This is awesome, fight forever." Pretty lengthy match, a good 25, 30 minutes or so. I'm not sure the exact length. Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, of course, pick up the victory, as you would expect them to, considering Omega is being pushed very strongly. Young Bucks, of course, are the Young Bucks. So there you go. And then we had the main event match, Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela in a non-sanctioned match. So they were officially billing the tag match, the six-man match, as the main event, and this was the bonus unsanctioned match. There's tons of weapons. Jon Moxley brought out a bunch of barbed wire devices, including a barbed wire chair, a barbed wire board. Moxley was bleeding somewhere near the eye pretty early in the match. I'm not sure what caused it. Probably something from Joey Janela. Crowd started chanting, "You sick F" at Moxley. I'm trying not to use profanity so YouTube doesn't get upset at me, but you know what I mean. Moxley took some bumps onto the barbed wire chair. They had a bunch of tables. They put each other through tables. Moxley got irritated when Janela flipped him off. Janela was being very defiant, much like Steve Austin might have done back in the day. Moxley got slammed through the barbed wire table, I guess, or board, whatever you want to call it. We had a ladder be introduced. So you had tables, ladders, chairs, barbed wire. You had all this crazy stuff. Janela climbed up the ladder, did an elbow all the way to the outside of the ring onto Jon Moxley through the tables that were stacked to the outside. Moxley came back. He grabbed some thumbtacks and started pulling off Janela's shoes and then even his socks. And JR or somebody was like, "No, not the socks." That was a great line. Moxley slammed Janela into the thumbtacks. Janela, again, channeling Steve Austin, refused to submit to this guy and gave him the double bird once again. So Moxley gave him the double deeds or the paradox shift, whatever the hell his move is called now, to score the 1, 2, 3. Predictable outcome. Figured Moxley's not losing his first match, but Joey Janela got a nice little rub hanging in there with the big star. So yeah, entertaining despite the predictable outcome. Post-match, we had Kenny Omega attack Moxley. They were fighting by the stage. Omega grabbed the drumsticks and started playing drums on Moxley, hit him with an electric guitar. Referees were trying to help Moxley, but Moxley shoved them away. Omega came back out and gave Moxley the paradox shift onto the trash can. But Moxley, of course, channeling Mick Foley, was just smiling there. He was enjoying the pain, and that's how the show went off the air. So I would say not as good as the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, but still really solid offering, a wide variety of content. You had hardcore wrestling, you had lots of acrobatics, you had a little bit of a slower pace match with Cody and Darby and Allin. You had the comedy, so you had a lot on this show. A good sampling of what to expect from AEW if you were a new viewer. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, "Seth Rollins doesn't approve of this, damn it." Well, that remains to be seen. I mean, he could just be saying that because, you know, he's the Universal Champion and making a lot of money with WWE. So, letter grade, I think it was an A-. You know, I'm not going to go with an A. I think I gave an A to Double or Nothing. This was slightly below Double or Nothing, so I would go with an A- or a B+. I will go ahead and give it an A- because I think it was a really solid show. But, you know, it wasn't like Double or Nothing where it's just like you were not holding anything back. I think, you know, they did a couple predictable matches with predictable outcomes, but I think in terms of giving people a good sampling of what the product is about, I think it was a success. Noah gives it an A. W Glass 90 gives it a B. Carrie gives it an A minus. Brian Blazing gives it an A minus. Lewis gives it an A. Daniel gives it a B. Ma Wrestling gives it a B plus. Chat Site Forums gives it a C. Super Namic 2121 gives it an A plus. Steve Herman gives it a B plus, and Darius gives it an A plus. So lots of good reviews overall for the show. I enjoyed it. So I do want to address the whole Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman story. So now WWE announced on social media and their website on Sports Illustrated, Eric Bischoff is going to be running SmackDown Live, not as a storyline, but actually in real life. And Paul Heyman, in real life, not in storyline, is going to be running Monday Night Raw. So this is the latest WWE creative shakeup. Now, what is going on here? Will these guys really have power? Will they really be able to change the product? It was made clear in the Sports Illustrated article that they will be answering to Vince McMahon. Now, Triple H is running NXT, and he answers to Vince. Vince still reportedly has the final say with NXT, but NXT is always a great show, and people always will think that Triple H doesn't have to answer to Vince because NXT is just so good. So, is there hope here for the fans, or is this just yet another dangling the carrot, trying to make us think there's going to be change when there really won't? Paul Heyman had some great content, especially during that 2003 period when he was running SmackDown. I mean, SmackDown was probably at its peak when Paul Heyman was creatively running the show. Eric Bischoff, not sure how I feel about this. Bischoff's track record isn't all that impressive post 1998, just saying. The TNA stuff, and again, Bischoff downplays his creative role in Impact Wrestling during that time, but come on, guys, let's be real here. Garrett Bischoff, aces and eights. Eric Bischoff likes motorcycles. You're telling me he wasn't creatively running the product during that time? I don't know about that. But yeah, Eric Bischoff is running SmackDown apparently, and we'll see. We'll see if it makes any positive difference. Brand split reset, perhaps, again. They really need to do some sort of draft or do something to have the guys on separate shows again if people are going to take this seriously. So we'll see. I am cautiously optimistic that this is going to result in positive change. Again, it could just be Vince feeling like we got to go back to 20 years ago to get the fans back. Vince only knows what used to work instead of trying to do something different and new, just going back to the past. So, I don't know. As you guys are mentioning in the chat room, this could just be a smokescreen, just another dangling carrot to make people think there might be a change when there's really not going to be much of one at all. And how long until they change things again? And will Vince really give them control? There's so many questions, and I think there's definitely a lot to be skeptical about. Now, last thing I want to cover here before I sign off for the night, going back to the question from earlier, if WWE did go out of business, which this is pretty much just a fun theoretical question. I mean, there's really no chance WWE's going out of business anytime soon. If AEW was the last promotion standing, who would they pick up? I think John Cena would be picked up if Cena wanted to do it. I think there would be quite a few guys that AEW would pick up if WWE went out of business. But again, this is highly unlikely in all likelihood territory. WWE is still very profitable, and I think they will be for quite some time. It's going to take a long time for them to not be profitable. Now, granted, WCW felt like they were not going to go anywhere, and they did, but WWE is a very well-oiled machine as a business, as I have mentioned many times over the past year, 2 years, 10 years. As long as you've been watching this, you know I've been saying this. So that's all I got for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely check out Fyter Fest if you did not watch it. It is free, and I thought it was overall a very entertaining show. Carlos with another $5 super chat says, if we see Roman Reigns turning heel or something big like that, then there's change. Yeah, I mean, definitely something like that would be huge. That would be a very clear sign that something is changing in WWE, but I don't know about that. I'm not going to get my hopes up on that one. Congratulations to Carlos. I think Carlos is going to end the night as the NoDQ Super Chat champion. So thank you, Carlos, for your Super Chats. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for watching tonight. Well, wait a minute. Time out. Noah Foster. Now, I'm just a simple man and a lifelong fan of wrestling. Noah Foster is the new Super Chat champion. But hold on. Just when you thought it was over, Hamp Connell comes in with a $5 Super Chat, says, it's my Super Chat championship. So, got to give it to Hamp Connell for being the brand new NoDQ Super Chat champion. Hamp Connell, thank you so much. But I may have to give the plug tonight to Carlos for his multiple Super Chats. But it looks like Hamp is going to end the evening as the Super Chat champion. Now, speaking of quick plugs, make sure you guys head over to nodq.com/shirts. This week is the 4th of July sale from Pro Wrestling Tees. You could pick up one of the many NoDQ t-shirt designs up on there. Something like 25 shirts and counting up there on the site. So if you would like to support NoDQ, pick up a shirt. And don't forget about NoDQ's meetup coming up the day of SummerSlam in Toronto. And wait a minute, Carlos just came back with another $5 Super Chat. So Carlos is once again your new reigning and defending NoDQ Super Chat champion. Carlos pulls it off. Carlos is our MVP of the evening. Thank you so much, Carlos. But wait a second. I thought I was done here. Hamp Connell with a $5 Super Chat. So Hamp is now the new reigning and defending NoDQ Super Chat champion. And we're not done yet, folks. This just in. Shanti with a $6 Super Chat says, my title, find me in Titans of Promo Wrestling on Facebook. So there you go. Shanti is your new NoDQ Super Chat champion. Titans of Promo Wrestling on Facebook. Go check it out. Do it right now. Go like his page on my behalf. So congratulations to Shanti for being the new NoDQ Super Chat champion. So that's all I got for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your viewership and support. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest, and I will see you all next time.